All roads lead to the west, it would appear. The breaking news, of course, this afternoon is that Shai Bolton, Richmond superstar, has formally requested a trade out of the Tigers. Kane, I'll tell you what. By the way, you can call us anytime on the Harcourts open line, 1300 736 736. You know the temper text, 0433 98 11 16, because I don't know about the Sports Day family out there and what their assessment of this is, Kane. But for Richmond, this is perfect. For Fremantle, this is perfect. And this is perfect match.
Perfect, you think,
AFL
for Richmond.
style.
Perfect. Tell me what, and I want to hear from the Richmond fans, 0433 98 11 16, and give us a call even better. How are you feeling? But how is it perfect for Richmond that their most talented player in a good age bracket wants out?
They have been presented, not all by design, of course, the best chance they will ever get to fast-track a rebuild in a deep, consistent and talent-laden draft. Tasmania on the horizon cannot be overestimated. This is your chance to strike now, get overs for these guys, and we'll get to the rest of them in a moment, before the draft gets a heck of a lot more compromised, other sides bottom out, and you miss your window. So this is, Shai Bolton has got 4 years to run on a contract worth more than $1 million a season. He was their lifer, and fair enough.
He was their best player.
25 years of age, you'd like to think he will still be there when they turn the corner. That's fine. So if he does stay and they dig in, then they can't lose. But all I'm saying is with Liam Baker set to leave, Dan Rioli wants to play for Gold Coast, and to a lesser extent, Jack Graham's considering leaving too. There will be short-term pain if they all leave, but there already is pain. Kane, they've got the first pick. They're going to finish 18th. And with Tasmania looming, you want to get this done now. So Fremantle have got 3 first-rounders. So they could end up getting, this is another part of the conversation, both Baker and Bolton. But those 3 first could give Richmond 4 first-round picks this year. Dan Rioli you'll be holding out for as well. That's without factoring him in. They've sandbagged a bunch of late picks in this year's draft too, Richmond. So that's where Brisbane and Carlton come in, potentially needing to call upon those picks to get their father-sons in. You will never get a better chance to get a glut of high-end picks in, and it just so happens the draft is good.
Yeah, no, the draft is good, but there is no guarantees that with those 2 picks...
You have to get your picks right.
You
have to get your picks right.
That's not just guaranteed. I mean, go and ask Essendon how that works. Go and ask North Melbourne with Will Phillips at pick 3.
We're not dealing in COVID times. We're not dealing with any other... There was a large unknown...
That's just the history of football.
History says that when you get 4 first rounders,
no, it helps.
You're going to strike.
No, it helps, but there is no guarantee that you are going to hit a player with the level, and you know what Shai Bolton is. You know the commodity that he is. There's no guarantee you are going to get that in the draft. So he's the one that I'd be going, well, how hard do Richmond want to play this? Like, this will tell me a little bit about Adamuze, because he's been soft.
You play it super hard.
He's been way too... Adamuze has been way too soft in his first year. It looks as though he wants to be mates with everyone and not upset anyone and be very complimentary of performances that aren't worthy of compliments. So here's his test. Here is his real test.
So Richmond supporters, want to hear from you, because I'm of a mind of you can't lose. And I think it's a jackpot, to be honest. But if I walk back from that, you can't lose.
You
they either stay
Shai very highly.
They either stay, and that's great.
How many players in the game?
Or they leave, and you hold out. When I say first rounders, you hold out for 2 pointy-end picks for him.
So we're talking Fremantle right now. The last draft order I've got is they've got 9 and 10.
Yep.
Fremantle, and then it drops a little bit further than that to the second round, is it? And they've got
3 first rounders at the moment. Anyway, we'll get the list up. The point is though that you hold out
as well.
But that doesn't mean they necessarily give those picks to it. You get them to go to work, get them to drop.
And there's future picks as well. A couple of years in advance, maybe as well. Is that still happening?
Yes, 1 year in advance. 4 years on a contract worth somewhere around $1.1 to $1.2 million a season. You are well within your rights to hold out for a king's ransom, or he stays. And Dan Rioli, much the same. So Liam Baker's going to leave because he's out of contract, and we get that, but that's a first-round pick, surely, as well. I mean, I just think it's too good of an opportunity presented at the moment. Richmond supporters I'd love to temperature check this evening. 1300 736
Can I just make a point here? Firstly, the amount of players I wrote about on Thursday, and Bucks and I spoke about this morning, the amount of contracted players who really want the best of both worlds. They want the long-term contract. They want the security. Clubs bend over backwards to keep them happy. And the minute, and Shai, has had all the success in the world in his young career, and the minute it gets a little bit tough, I want out. I want to go home. And look, there may be some family reasons behind that, but I'm sure he could have foreseen some family circumstances when he signed a long-term deal that now he wants out of. That's the first point. And
yes, you're probably right.
He's not the only player that is doing that currently, and it is becoming more common, and the clubs have no power. And usually when you declare you want out, you will get out, as we've seen before. That's the first point, and there needs to be some criticism over the player agents who are happy to encourage their players to sign long-term and then are now advising them out with 4 years to go just because things have got a little bit tough.
Are they advising them out, or is the player going to them saying, I want to move?
Why can't they say to them, no, you were pretty happy to sign a
Sometimes they do.
Well, and they should, and I hope that is the case, but far too often they're now going to want to facilitate this trade. And the other point is, how would Hopper and Taranto be feeling? Jacob Hopper and Tim Taranto, who were sold the dream under a coach that got out for his retirement plan and his superannuation and broke a contract because he was burnt out and then was happy to re-sign not long after. And now all of this mass exodus for a core group of players that want out. If I was Jacob Hopper and Tim Taranto, I would be that angry right now. I'd almost, not that anyone would probably pick up their contracts, but I'd almost have a look around if I was those two.
You'd be bleeding. Absolutely, you'd be bleeding. Because it's like turning over. Is it when you play Monopoly? Is it the community chess card?
And the Giants are flying.
Go directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect 200.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's Deledio all over again.
The rug's been pulled out from under them. Yeah, and they can't be blamed for that. And you do feel for them there. I mean, it's a volcanic situation in the player movement space and the coach moving space. Keep your texts coming through. Ken's in Hastings. I just want to. If you brag for Richmond or if you're just a football observer, just give us your thoughts on this evening. Shai Bolton, the formal request to leave Richmond, he's the first, but he certainly won't be the last in this offseason.
Now, they've said when this first came about, and credit to Xander Maguire, who was the one that first broke this a long, long time ago, they said, Tim Livingston, Adamuze, he's going nowhere. That was what they said.
You have to say that.
He's a contracted player, long-term, he's going nowhere. So let's see.
You still have to say that.
Yeah, and I suspect that they will, and they may keep saying that until the last hour of trade period. But let's see how hard Richmond are going to be, because this is a nice football club at the moment that is happy with just being mates with everyone.
Quick text, but this summarises to the ones that I've seen, a lot that have come through already. Big Richmond supporter, cash in now. Shai's a talented player in a good side. Don't think he's the same in a lower team. Need to bottom out pre-Tassie, or the next opportunity is pushed back 3 years. A lot of people putting... And look, when a player does get requested trade, the supporters can turn pretty quickly.
They turn quick.
Turn quick. Oh, he's inconsistent. He's wildly inconsistent.
Largely, you're playing with house money, because regardless, you can stay in last position on the ladder for 10 years, and Richmond fans aren't going to be fully happy with that. But those that have been around in the last 6 or 7 are going to, oh, you know what? I experienced this unbelievable era at Richmond, and I'm probably die a happy supporter, because I've got to see this, and some supporters would dream of that. So I get that. You are largely, the ability to do what Hawthorn are doing right now, where you have all that success and rebuild pretty quickly from where they've been.
How aggressive were they?
Yeah, and that's the opportunity that you've got. But I just will say, you'd want to absolutely squeeze the lemon out of this Shai Bolton trade.
That's a no-brainer.
Like, what are we talking? Are we talking like a Jeremy Cameron style? I know he was a free agent. They matched it.
Two of the most pointiest first-round picks you can get.
So we're talking 2 top 10 picks for Shai Bolton. Is that what you're saying? Because that's almost unprecedented. There's not many that, like even Horn Francis at his age, pick one in the draft was 8 and 16. Look, and Horn Francis is more valuable than Shai Bolton. You want more than that.
It's a bit like the Josh Dunkley scenario, is that the players in contract, the price can be whatever Richmond set. And that's totally their prerogative. He's got 4 years to run on a deal worth upwards of $5 million. They can set the terms however they see fit. But on face value, I would have thought a pick in the top 10 won, and the second pick, if not in the top 10, then it's got to be somewhere in the low teens, maybe 12, 13, 14 or something if I'm Richmond.
Is there a player out there? Because we always just go, okay, he wants out. What's the draft pick? Is there a player at Fremantle that would interest Richmond?
Oh.
Is there a Hayden, not that you're going to get, but I mean, this is what we're talking about. This is what's going to have to satisfy. It's going to have to be someone low 20s. They got a lot of key position defenders.
Richmond won't want to. Fremantle won't want to be giving away young players that are key to their success.
It's a deal. Like you got to.
Well, you trade picks. Richmond need picks. Fremantle need the players.
You the question: why is it always picks?
It's a pick exchange in this case.
It's like Petrarca. Petrarca reportedly wants to go to a big Victorian club. I'm going, well, there's no big Victorian club that firstly has got the salary cap room or the picks to satisfy a pick. So you're going to have to give up Curnow. If Carlton want Petrarca, it's Curnow. That's what. And
Yeah,
then
well, that's a very different
and the opposition
situation.
supporter goes, "No way, we won't give up Kerner." Well, you want Shai Bolton?
The very different
You
situation.
got to give up Caleb Sarong. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's
well,
what
Fremantle won't be doing that.
I understand,
but the other part of
that's
it,
what I'll be asking
before we get back to the open line, thanks to Harcourts, the other part of it is that Adamuze has to be 150% backed in. If they're going to play this hand, then he has to be given assurances that, okay, things are going to get real rough and that we are with you and we're all aligned on this. There's no point in Adamuze being hung out to dry because they've gone down this path. I mean, it sounds obvious, but they've got to be total alignment with it, though, to give him the time.
Because his comments pre-season was that I'm not really putting any ceiling on this group. Who knows where this group can go? Now, they haven't aged very well at all, and there's been some reasons behind that. But now there is a ceiling on this group.
Yeah,
and the ceiling's bottom four for the next probably half decade.
I think you've only got to look at your old club for an example, and it's the famous 2018 draft.
The Wingard?
It's the Rosie, yep. It's the Butters, and obviously Dersma didn't quite work out, but early doors, they were the holy trinity out of that draft. So if you get your picks right, that sets up your whole future. Imagine if that's 3. Imagine if Fremantle were able to go in with 4, 5, another 2 next year. Like, that's a 2-year rebuild. You get your picks right. That's the non-negotiable. Set yourself up magnificently. You'll never get a better opportunity.
Why is it the right move for Freo? And this is the other part of this. Is it the right move to pay $1 million and give up 2 first-round picks, elite first-round picks, with the opportunity that they've got? I know they're young, and I know they feel like they're probably a small forward midfielder away or a couple from winning the premiership next year, and you may make that case, but is it the right move for them? And we'll speak to Mark Duffield about that.
Yeah, I love the local take on it too, the other side, because I look at it and think, he's a difference maker. He's a guy who makes things happen out of nothing. In a team contending where we're talking about margins that are that fine, and you've got Tracy emerging, and you've got a young forward line, you put him in there as well. I don't know. And it comes with premiership nous. I mean, I think it's...
Nous.
Nous.
I like that word.
Hey, my footy nous.
And I think Luke Beveridge is spot on just about how big these player agent stables have become and how powerful they have become and essentially how they are controlling the player movement space. Now, Luke didn't go into a whole lot of detail, but he gave enough. And it's something that I think we've all known, and I'm interested in your thoughts on it. And that's why I played that from Nathan Buckley, because he gave the coaching side of things where, you give something, but then the agent wants something else because they need to look after another client.
Was he talking about the agent there or another club?
Well, another club, but the agent that the player they were getting from managed someone else.
Right.
And then they asked for that other player who wasn't involved in the initial deal to be looked after. And it's like, so let me make up a scenario here. Shai Bolton, I don't even know who his management is, but they want Shai Bolton out of Richmond. It would be easy for the player agent management group to say, look, Richmond, understand you want a great deal, but if you do not give permission to Shai Bolton to leave, you're not going to be in the running for my other client who's out of contract in 12 months' time. You won't even get a seat at the table for a discussion about him and his want to come back to Victoria. That's the sort of things that I think would happen with player agents, and that's why Luke Beveridge is saying that they're so powerful. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if there's what you can do about it other than give clubs more flexibility to trade contracted players and give them more room to improve their list.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, there's some player management stables out there that have, I think 2 of them have, don't quote me on this, but maybe 50% of the player pool. So they're 2 massive players. And yeah, they can, I guess, theoretically do that. I mean, the other part of it is players are traded against their will often, not always, but often. And players leave clubs when clubs want them to stay often. So, I mean, I think it works both ways. I mean, at Nathan Buckley...
Not as often as this. Like the amount of players that are contracted that are now demanding to get out.
And the club can hold them, Kane. If they're in contract, hold them.
They can, but you're
players
saying...
get over and get on with it.
You're saying trade Shai Bolton.
Yeah, I am in the situation Richmond are in at the moment. But that's not a same shoe that fits all.
Jason Horne-Francis.
Did I?
Yep.
I don't know. What's that got to do with anything?
Well, he was contracted, and you're
Did I? I don't even remember saying that. All I'm saying is at the moment, Richmond are in a situation where I think the most high-end picks they can get in is only going to serve them well, okay? I think. And look, at a club like Collingwood, I mean, Collingwood have forced out multiple players in recent times against their will. Now, those same players, Adam Shalaw, for an example, he pushed money back in good faith. The club asked him to. He did it multiple times.
Do you think it's unfair, though? Like, say...
And was then traded.
Shai Bolton wants to go home and he says, right, I want to go home, but I'm only going to Freo. Why is that allowed? Or Dan Houston goes, I want to go home, but I'm only going to Carlton.
Well, I think if you're in contract like Shai Bolton, then you just go wherever Richmond decide you're going for the best possible
That
price.
never happens. They always,
Well, I think in a lot of
nominate
cases,
a club.
I think in like a Liam Baker's case, for example, he would have more say because he's out of contract, and that's probably fair enough. But yeah, the go-home factor, look, it's played. The family factor is played. Shai Bolton's used that. As you said, maybe these are the steps that he always knew he was going to take as a player, and he re-signed long-term not that long ago. Dan Houston, we mentioned earlier, AFL going to push for 5, I think, at the tribunal tomorrow.
Yeah, that's I can confirm that.
How do you think Port Adelaide are going to play it?
So the AFL are going to push for 5, and Port Adelaide are going to push for 3, and suggest that the initial contact was made to the body, which we can all see.
How does that matter?
Well, I'm just telling you what the argument's going to be. I'm not suggesting.
I'm asking for your opinion.
I'm giving you the facts.
How does that matter, do you think?
Well, I think the ball, he's I don't know. If I was them, I'd be saying he's got the ball, the bump has resulted in the ball being spilled out, and clearly the concussion was a result of the head hitting the ground. I'm just telling you what they're going to argue, and I think it's going to land at 4. So the AFL's asking for 5. Port Adelaide are asking for body contact at 3. And it's going to land at 4. Now, is it 4 or is it 5?
Doesn't matter,
It's
does
going
it?
to land somewhere there.
Well, it doesn't really matter for
Not
him.
really, unless Port Adelaide lost the first final and then went the long way round.
To the grand final.
He can play in the grand final, which may suit the AFL's agenda. I don't know.
Is he definitely leaving?
I don't know.